So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. There's some new stuff here. We need to be close to the mics because we're trying out this new system. So, and Natalie will be taking minutes tonight. Okay. Did everybody look at the meeting minutes? Did anybody have anything that they wanted changed?
Yeah, I have a correction to my own minutes. On the second page, Mary Doveton, where it starts with Mary Doveton's interested in being on the Grants and Awards Committee, and then the next sentence about Jerry Johnson, those were from the previous meeting, so those should just be redacted from this minute.
Okay, then. Is there anything else? Someone want to make a motion to approve with that redaction that was just mentioned?
Motion to approve with redaction as mentioned.
And
Second.
we got 2 seconds, either Rachel or Mike.
Let's do need to vote.
Call for a vote.
Yeah.
Yep, just a sec, I was looking at something. Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Abstaining? Approved unanimously. All right, the thing that caught my eye was that we have general public comment next. This is a new thing for me, so.
So, based on the way that the city commission does it, we can open the floor to general public comment. That would be things not related to what's on the agenda tonight. So if
Okay.
anybody had anything to talk about arts and culture that they wanted to share at this meeting, they can do that. For public comment related to the actual presentation, that would be done after the presentation.
So is there anybody out there who has something that is not on this fine sheet of meeting agenda paper? Seeing nobody, we shall move on. Porter, do you want to introduce the women of color, or shall I just go on?
I can introduce them, sure.
So, do I need to recuse myself for the whole item or just the deliberation?
Yeah, that's one thing, is that you want to explain the situation?
So, I'm actually going to be recusing myself from the deliberation and the vote or any action item on this item because I'm actually also an employee of the city of Lawrence, and I don't want any perception that I would be acting on behalf of the city as opposed to the LCAC. So I'm going to recuse myself from those deliberations.
And the way that we're
Actually,
looking at this is to recuse yourself.
Yeah,
You're
I'm going to
leaving.
actually leave the room.
Actually
because
leave
that's
the room.
the way city commission handles those. So just so that everybody knows why I'm doing that, that's why I'm doing it.
Okay, but we still have a quorum,
Yes.
so we're still good. Okay. Bye, Catherine. You need to be on top of them.
Are the mics
Check, 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 check.
There.
It's buzzing a little bit, maybe.
So when you speak, get as close to it as I am. You're almost eating it. And don't breathe heavily. All right then. Porter, would you?
So I'm happy to introduce Connie is, I believe, going to take the lead, and Marilyn is here to also do that, and the rest of their team is here to make the presentation, the final presentation to the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission tonight.
Now, this is a piece that you guys are gifting or donating to
Correct,
the
yeah.
city? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you again for having us. It was nice to present the idea of the project several months ago, originally to the board, and now coming back with a full final project. So this project is inspired by many women of color histories that have not been on display or accessible to the Lawrence community through many decades. We are so honored to have the support of the Womxn Museum, the Lawrence Public Library Board of Trustees, and many, many other partners. So our project is titled Wako Mujeres Funu Woman Mural. Wako means woman in the Kansa native language. Mujeres is the second most spoken language in Kansas, which is Spanish. And then Funu is the third most spoken language in Kansas, which is in Vietnamese. Woman with an X is more inclusive to the LGBT community and people of color. This project is very much about race, culture, and belonging. I will share more in a bit. We have collected oral histories of local women of color to inspire our mural design. We have put high priority on our elder community, but we have also collected stories of younger women in Lawrence to share a different perspective and variety of voices of these histories, as well as we have used this woman to be visually represented in a broader form. So the mural is very much using features that are women of color, narratives like texture, hair, eye shapes. There's a very much a variety of visual women represented in this mural. The oral histories have influenced the design. These are some of the women that we have interviewed, leaders of our community. We have had a group of design team members, artists and non-artists, 17 girls and women of color, their moms, and others who have joined to some of our meetings as well. Together, we have come up with the design. So it wasn't just Marilyn and I as lead artists. We facilitated gatherings to collaboratively create this design. We have presented in several community spaces, such as the neighborhood associations, East Lawrence, Old West Lawrence, city commissioners, and the NAACP. Also middle school, South Middle School, which you see on this photo. Participants of the 7th grade class of Liberty Memorial Central Middle School have also participated in nominating women of color. Kennedy Elementary School Boys and Girls Club will be also participating in the painting, and many more. Haskell Indian University as well. So we have been presenting the project around town, collecting nominations for community members, and having workshops as participation for the project as well. We had kids and adults help with deciding the colors of the visual mural. Our elders for sure, and you see here our design team. And we presented to the Lawrence Public Library Board of Trustees, which they wrote a letter of support supporting our project to be painted on the exterior wall of the library, which is such an honor. Our mural is representing different varieties of women. So we have a tree that represents different shades. In the horse, there's a woman who is both German and Mexican in a general broad sense. So what does it mean to be both German and Mexican and look brown? There's a representation of a very important Native woman who is nationally recognized as an ethnographer, and her name is Ella Claire Deloria. She has passed away, but she's very much honored in the Haskell community. We have representations very generally of
a lot of different women, sorry. I just wanted to touch on the nomination process a little bit, because that is something that we did work really hard on.
Excuse me, would you move closer to the mic?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just wanted to speak on the nomination process for the oral histories. Some of these women are living, but others are not. And we wanted to make sure that the women who are seen as pillars in our communities were recognized, whereas other women are just symbols or visual representations of all of us. We can all ride a horse. We can all see that we are a spectrum of color. We are all serene. We are all, if you look at the rest of the design, there are different activities that are happening throughout the design to give it flow. So we have Ayako Mizumura. She's a farmer and a tea ceremony person who's been in the community for a long time, and we wanted to give her recognition in her being part of our community. But others are just symbols of childhood, motherhood, personhood that are needed in this space.
Yes, and we had the youth drawings visually displayed. As you can tell, those are actually the drawings that the youth design team members made. We have our elders, which will be the only ones that have their names painted on the mural, as we have collectively decided that. So when you turn to the page of that has the names on the murals, that you will see there.
There are more bodies represented than names.
Correct. So there's also the part of motherhood, and the quilts represent how Native American history was written and displayed, and African American history was both displayed through quilting and the arts. In the middle, we have a very important Lawrence figure, so it's Marla Jackson. And we also have Nedra Bones, both quilters. And Joan Hurst. And Tomiko Mel. She has gotten several nominations by community members about her presence in the community as a Japanese American woman who has hosted and felt at home with many Japanese American folks in Lawrence through decades. The ribbons that you see flying, they are representative of the women who started the fiesta, the Lawrence Fiesta that happens every summer. It's a family that has been here through many generations. So you see the word fiesta in there, and lyrics to the song that go with it. Next is another woman who will have their name on the mural is Ursula Miner and the NAACP Lawrence, Kansas. She's holding the records. In the flying paper, she will have names of women leaders of the NAACP Lawrence chapter from the past, which are also on the list. We share about education and the future through these depictions.
Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions specifically to the design?
Are there any questions from you guys specifically to the design? I have one. Just, you say you're going to put the names on there of some of the people, but is there going to be anywhere that we'll be able to easily access all the stories? I know you're going to have it on your website, but is there any place else?
Yes. So we have. We're doing our IRB through our research mentor through KU libraries that will be archived properly at the library, and we hope to have them archived as well at the public library and at the museum.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I'm very happy to answer any other questions.
We do have other questions for you. What I would like to do is, this is a slightly different process because you are giving a donation to the city, you're giving a gift to the city. And so along with the mural review criteria, you also have to fulfill the donation criteria. And so we have both of those here. And you have gone through and you've done the mural review, and we have some of your answers here, but we do have some questions because some of this isn't as fleshed out as we might like it to be.
Okay.
So let's see about that. Do we have, Porter, do you have that? Can we put that up there?
Which one?
The mural review criteria, so everybody out here can see what's going on. Otherwise, it's going to be really dull.
Here, I can put it. Need it. And your half menu.
So as we're getting ready, if you other commissioners have questions that you have.
Are we going to go, we're just going to go through the checklist?
I would like to go just through the checklist if that makes sense with
No,
everybody.
Makes sense to me.
So we're using a mural review criteria, and this is relatively new. We've used it twice now for everybody else out there who's not knowing what's going on here. And it's relatively new. It was put together by a couple of members of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, one of whom is still on the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, and the other one was Kathy Porsche. It also included, I think, at least 4 muralists from Lawrence. One of those is Dave Lowenstein, who is here. Thank you, Dave, for helping us with that. KT Walsh, Nicholas Ward, and Amber Hansen. Did I get that last name right? So those are that's where we got the information from this, and this was a fairly long process. They had several meetings. It wasn't just one and you're done thing. So this was well thought out amongst muralists in our community, with the aid of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commissioners who were part of that group. So the first question was a detailed description of the location of the proposed work of art. And you guys can all read that up there. Physical dimensions of the work, property boundaries, existing buildings, streets, and sidewalks, marked with proposed changes associated with the work of art. Now, you have a number of photographs, but we'd like more detailed information about that. So what else can you give us? Or do you need me to ask specific questions?
About the site specific?
Yes.
Yeah, so the site is very much used. The green space is for many, many community events. I, with my family, attend many movie nights. I know that that's also the drop-off area for the Kids Fuel in the summer program. It's very much already used by the community and very trafficked, especially because the public pool is across from it and the farmers market is also across from it.
Okay. Is there anybody else who has questions about this at this point? We will be coming back to this because there's more down the line. Degree of permanence of structural and surface components, such as wall materials and finishes, any preparation work, primer and paint specifications, and site considerations. So for the primer and paint specifications, do you have specifications on those paints, or you gave us that you would be using, I think, a concrete or masonry primer?
Yeah, so you will see on the list, those are the specific kinds of primer. So masonry primer, Nova Color acrylic paint, and Nova Color exterior varnish for protection.
There are a lot of different kinds of masonry primer.
Okay,
Do you have
so,
specifics?
Yeah. We're gonna use Kiehl's premium exterior latex primer. It's used for special surfaces so that the paint will actually adhere. There's not going to be any sort of muriatic or any other abrasion happening to the surface. It's literally just going to be paint on the wall. So if it'll just be like a higher end primer than what you get at a like a hardware store.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just getting to that, they always say you need to clean the surface. How do you propose to clean it? You just
Pressure
said
washers would work.
you're going to pressure wash
Yeah, a
it.
pressure washer would
Okay.
work really easily.
Anybody else at the table have questions? I'm kind of monopolizing the microphone here, so step in anytime.
Well,
So the packet that we have. Please speak into a mic. The packet that we have in front of us here.
You got to eat it.
The packet that we have in front of us here is more complete than the one that was sent out to us in the email. Is that true?
Porter, is that true?
No, you have the same.
It's the
Okay,
same.
I must admit, because all my questions are around that.
It's hard
color-
to read email too.
Color
I
of
feel
paint
like.
and everything, or the type of paints and everything, but I see it here, so.
Okay. Okay, concepts and realization of the work of art shown by representational sketches, which you have given us. Design methods to be employed, as in the case of collaboratively developed community mural projects. Would you speak to that? How do you propose to put this on the wall?
Yeah, so if you go to the timeline part of the proposed, we first clean up, and we would like to have it prime first and then have it projected in sections so it fits perfectly with the dimensions of the wall at night. The first part of the community painting will be for those boys and girls in the middle school kids that were directly involved with the mural as honor of their contributions and nominations for the project. Later, we plan to have it open to the rest of the community. Anybody will be able to make a mark and paint. After that, the design team will be doing more of the bulk and the hard work to get all the details done and complete the mural.
So when you project this on the wall, what happens? Do people just go and paint what's projected on the wall?
Yeah. So when we project on the wall, it will be done at night. It will just be the outlines, and that will be just the design team. The following days will be when everybody gets to paint, because we will have a mock-up of the paints, and we'll have all the paints ready, and the design team will be directing the kids and other community members, paint by number kind of thing.
It's like a paint by number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you've given us your resumes and your bio and images of previous work showing evidence of ability to complete the work as proposed. Now, have any of you on the design team led something like this before? Have you been the lead for an event like this before?
Yeah, I mean, something similar. I have, I don't know if you're familiar with the Purple Carrot food truck.
Uh-huh.
I and a friend designed and painted that by hand. I have also been the co-leader of the Topeka Youth mural.
Okay. So you've been involved with working with a number of other people painting underneath you, being in charge of all that, being aware of their safety, all that stuff?
Mm-hmm. Correct. And I have worked with boys and girls many times.
Okay.
Club.
Neighborhood engagement is evidenced by documentation that artist has presented the project to the neighborhood association or like body and gained approval for the project. You mentioned that you have done engagement, you've gone out and spoken to people, but there was no documentation of that, and that's actually kind of crucial.
Okay. We
For us to
a letter
have.
of support from the Old West Lawrence Neighborhood Association that we can definitely.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
And any of the other people that you talk to, that would be good to have
Okay.
that information.
We have over 80 letters of support from local community members that we can definitely give you a stack of those.
So any of these neighborhood groups that you've talked to, it would be really good to have that for
Yeah.
us.
Of course.
Yeah.
And next time you do anything like this, include it ahead of time. Because this particular review, application, there's a lot missing from it. And I don't want to send you away and make you come back. So that's why I'm going through this so meticulously now, so we don't waste any more time.
Correct.
And we can get the answers when we can.
It's a
So
very new process.
in the future,
Yeah.
consider this.
And does that support include Downtown Lawrence, Inc.?
Not necessarily Downtown Lawrence Inc., did you say?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, not Inc.
Okay.
I don't think we've talked to them, but we have talked to smaller businesses on the strip of Mass Street, along with the university and other kind of community members.
Okay, I'm going to keep
Wait a
going.
minute, I've got a question.
Ooh, somebody else. Yay.
With all the people that you've talked to, have you talked to the architect of the
Yes.
library building?
Oh yeah, they came to the first meeting when we came with when we got unanimous support from the city commission to paint on the library. They were in audience listening, and they wrote a letter of support as well.
We would like to
I
have
haven't-
that.
No, they
I have
didn't.
not.
Sorry,
No.
I didn't see.
We
that.
have
Sorry.
one of the architects from the firm that built the library help us with some of the color palette. Rolf Peterman.
Wolf Peterman.
Rolf.
Rolf.
Yeah, he's German.
Okay.
Because I saw nothing in the materials about that at all.
Yeah.
And that was a concern of mine.
We can talk to him more if you need more documents from him.
Maybe email
Yeah.
forward.
Rachel.
Thank you.
I'd also like to add, do you guys have any letters of support from the schools, from the public school system? Because I think it's really cool, a really cool thing about this project is engaging the youth. And I'd love to see documentation of that, Boys and Girls Club and the public school system.
Yeah, we can forward that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to keep going through this. I have some other questions here that I've just been handed. So, relationship of the proposed work of art to the site in terms of the history, cultural, and social dynamics of the neighborhood. I don't know that this necessarily applies to this, but obviously there's history involved. You've addressed that. Surrounding context of the site, existing or planned. I don't know if that has been set. I don't know that the community or the library has tried to figure out what they're going to do with that whole area. I don't know that that necessarily pertains here. There is one question I have, though. There is a sign for the
Yes.
Newman family. What is going on with that?
Correct. So we have spoken with the library about that sign, and they have offered with the family to move the sign for our project. They're in support. I can forward that direct information as well.
Yep, again, something we should have had earlier. Thank you. Detailed installation plan with timeline. You gave us a vague timeline, and more detail would be good, like exactly how you plan to clean it, exactly the type of paint, which you're giving us now, which is great. But if you're going to have a bunch of community people there, including kids, and it's the middle of summer,
Yeah.
I would personally like to know detailed information about, are you providing water, cooling, all this kind of stuff,
Exactly.
what time of day will it be, all that kind of information. So
Yes, I have been in contact with the Boys and Girls Club and the other youth that are going to be participating, hopefully, once we have a timeline. So it would very much depend on the approval of the project, that we can coordinate that with their timeline, and also imagining that the kids are not going to be there for a long period of time. From previous works that I have done with kids and youth, their attention span is not that long. But we'll for sure include water being in the middle of the summer.
and maybe even shade.
Well, the overhang is a better location because it actually provides shade. During certain times of the day.
We're not quite there yet, but I'll wait. Okay. We'll wait on the overhang. Budget plan, including installation, anticipated future maintenance cost, and party responsible for paying the estimated cost as shown in the owner-artist agreement. Now, I know that you don't have the owner-artist agreement because that's kind of waiting on, it's
For
a
the city.
city-owned, blah, blah, blah. But, and a budget plan was asked for in both the mural review criteria and in the donated part, and we don't have any dollar numbers at all. There's no budget plan at all, which is a huge red mark on this application.
I assume because it was a donation that it wouldn't necessarily matter, because I'm not giving money, or I'm not obtaining money from the city.
So what this is, you're not obtaining money from the city, you're not asking for a grant, but there's a reason that these things are in here that doesn't have anything to do with you getting money from the city. It has to do with you showing how much it's going to cost, that you have the dollars there to do it. This whole, what we're going through today is to show that you have the information, the experience, all the rest of it to do what you're asking to do. So having a budget plan is crucial.
For sure. And I have that from the grants because they're very specific. I can forward that to you as well.
Okay, that'd be good.
Can I ask a question that's
yeah.
related to the budget? What I would like to see from a budget is just the life of the project, you know, after it's painted, and any sort of ongoing maintenance costs. And so projecting into the future, that's what I'm really missing.
Yeah. So with that, it would have to be done later because it is a city wall. With the contract, it wouldn't be able to be addressed until a contract is drafted and agreed upon with city commissioners and mayor.
So you know the city isn't going to be very happy about taking something on that they may have to spend money on. Just so you know, they're not going to be happy if you don't have money for maintenance.
Yes,
down the line.
so I have written there that we, the artists, will do minimum maintenance. So if there was a scratch or something, we can do that. But if there was a complete redo of the project, that is something else.
Right.
Okay.
How frequently would you anticipate that there would need to be maintenance?
Honestly, very rarely. It's such an open space. It's not an alleyway.
Okay, thank you.
Graffiti would be one of our main concerns, maybe, but it's
Okay.
a safe space
Okay, thank you.
from what I've seen.
All right, the next one speaks to notarized agreement. Again, you can't do anything about that yet. Okay. If there's any written test that is part of or associated with the work of art, you must submit that for approval with the application. So any of the written stuff that's going to be on there, and that goes back to the issue of separating the murals from the sign stuff. So if you can make sure that we have all the names and all of that.
Yeah, they're on the list. I think the last part.
Okay, just so it's clear for everybody.
Do we
Make it easy
do we have
for us.
insight into the nomination,
Process?
of the names and the process?
Yeah, for sure. So in November we started of 2017. The nomination process, which we put out in the radio and other medias for anyone in the community to nominate a woman of color, whether it is from the past or from the present. We got a bit over 50 nominations across the board from Lawrencians. Many of those were repeated. The Langston matriarchs were nominated several times, of course.
Okay, before I move on to the artwork review part of it, is there anything that the rest of the commissioners or Porter you have to say about the first bit we just did?
What's the expected life expectancy of the mural? Both the varnish and the underlying paints?
I think it's about 35. One of the muralists, KT, showed us at one of our meetings that we presented at. 35 years, but it also will depend of how long the city and the library would like to keep the mural.
And the mural that she showed you, are you using the same types of paint? Are you adding
Yes.
another finish on top of the paint? once
It's the
done?
same professional mural paint.
Okay.
I have a question for my fellow commissioners. Can someone explain to me the process of getting a notarized agreement with the library? I don't understand that process.
It'll be with the city, and Porter can answer that.
Okay.
I'm actually working with, Connie actually started, we have a draft contract as part of the mural guidelines. So we're adapting that to a city contract because that was really crafted for a private owner
Right.
with an artist. And so we're using that as our beginner thing. And actually that leads me to a couple questions from the city side. But we're working with the city's attorney's office, and then the plan would be to have that draft as part of the packet if this goes to the city commission.
Okay, thank you.
And just with that, if I may, just on that practical side, one issue that came up recently we were talking about, just mostly for awareness at this point, is that when there are people painting on that library plaza, the city's going to want to know who's going to cover the liability insurance for that. The city will want to be indemnified
Yeah.
so it doesn't incur cost.
That's something that I have spoken with Brett Allen, the director of the library, and I have included in my budget, which I can share. Our budget includes the project insurance. We plan to do it through Fracture Atlas. They cover many arts project insurance, and it has been done in Lawrence before.
Okay.
So that'll be identified in the budget?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be important then. And then you actually mentioned it, just to have an idea if, hopefully it won't happen, but if the mural were to be tagged, what I'm hearing is that there's a point where you have to determine how much maintenance you'll be able to do, or replacement or repair, that kind of thing. So there is a risk to the city at that level. If there was something severe to occur, that the city would have to...
It's very minimal. I think that it's very rare that it would happen, especially in such a beloved and open space. But yes, if it is small, we would directly fix it up, touch it up.
Okay,
And that would be
thanks.
in the contract that we got.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right, okay. Those are the main things from the city's perspective at this point.
Okie dokie. All right, on to the artwork review part of this original mural review. Thank you guys for bearing with us. Achievability of the project based on artist presentation of, okay. First one, description of the location of the proposed work of art sufficient to show visibility of the site by the public and determine whether there are any issues related to public safety or impacts on operating functions of the city. What is that box that's on that wall?
The box is it's an architectural piece. I think it's what is it, a spout? Some sort
It's
of,
like a hose?
it's a building.
Just for your reference, there's photographs here on the...
Yeah. So
of
there's
the wall.
Yeah, there's a spout that's on the building itself. So what we did was we designed around that, and we put water coming out of it like it's turned on. Since the library's right across from the pool, we did decide to feature water. We also featured water because we are a river city.
Can you paint on that box?
We won't paint on
No,
the
we're
box.
using it as part of the design, so we won't actually mess with that. We're gonna paint around it and use the actual structure as a design feature.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see that. Okay, but it's not in the design. But I don't see where it is on here. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that reflected in the design now?
Yes, there's water coming down in an area where there's a woman climbing up the stairs. In front of her
Oh, yeah.
is two other women in circles. In between them is water kind of parting. So that water is actually coming out of that spigot.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So we don't want to paint on that, and we had to arrange, figure out scale and everything, so we knew where everything would fall.
Okay.
But we're not painting on it.
All right. Okay. We've already answered.
Before we move off
Sorry.
of that topic, I mean, so is it water? Is it electrical? Do we need somebody from the city? to
I believe it's
comment on
actually
if it's-
electrical. I believe it provides all the electricity for when people do outdoor stuff there.
Okay.
And it's very hard to see on this rendering.
Yeah, we're, okay.
It's, let's see if I have to keep moving my glasses.
I can find it on here.
Do you want
Do
to
you
show
need
us?
help?
Yes.
Yeah, magnifying glass.
Yeah. So it's, if you have a picture, it's this part.
Right.
So right here, I think this is the old picture. You wanna-
Okay.
Can we go back to the presentation pictures?
He has a copy.
Oh, he has the copy. No. but I
No,
mean the
this is
design,
old.
The actual design. Because what
minimize
we have
Yes.
is,
window.
right here, we have like little water coming down.
Awesome.
To make it
Okay.
look, you know,
Yeah. Use
use
what you got.
use what you got.
Yeah, it's
That's
right
all
here.
we-
Okay.
Yeah, so it's that water feature
So
right
there,
there.
she has it up on
Where
the.
the
Yeah.
red
Okay.
dot is.
Oh, there, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, great.
But in this, it shows that it's painted, but you're not painting it, correct?
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just
Oh,
Photoshop.
yeah?
Okay.
No, you're not painting it, or yes, you are?
No.
Okay.
We are not painting it.
One more time. Anybody else before I dash along?
Actually, there was one other question that raised just a concern, was the question of ADA accessibility to the actual mural.
So,
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we can necessarily fix. It is accessible if you go around it. Some parts of it are, but it is the wall, and there are already events happening there that are full of people, and you can manage around. And if you see the boys and girls that use that space, and also all the movie spaces are already a community space.
That doesn't really answer completely that issue because there are stairs on that side.
yeah.
There are stairs at the bottom of the library on
Yeah,
the
so there
Kentucky
is-
Street side. Please let me finish.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And stairs on the Vermont Street side. So you cannot get to that mural and get up close to it if you're in a wheelchair. And even the concrete bits at the top of the stairs that go all the way across that lawn, at the very end of them, there's a big post. So you would have to get your wheelchair into the grass and come around. I'm not saying it can't be done,
Right.
but then you can't get up next to it because there is a railing that has to be there. That's an ADA. It's required by the
Right, so
city.
people don't bump their heads
Right.
on that overhang.
Right.
Right. So what we actually did was we addressed the issue of ADA with the mural by putting a woman in a wheelchair on the mural going up the stairs with help. So what we're going to be doing is we hope that we can have more accessibility on that wall, and we will want to give more credit to our people with disabilities for accessing something. I don't know if I've had to help people up the stairs in wheelchairs all the time, and I would hope that community members would be able to step up. Otherwise, it would be, it's not, something that we are able to have as an accessible space. We didn't create this space, but we want to use it, obviously. So it's hard for us to,
Yeah, I don't know why the onus would be on.
Excuse me, I'm talking with them and.
yeah.
So if this starts to get testy, and I don't want it to, I just want to get straight
Right.
answers from stuff, I will recess this, and we will leave the room and give everybody 5 minutes to cool down. I want everybody to remain respectful of everybody, and particularly of my commissioners and the two of you. So let's just keep moving on.
Yeah. I'd like to add one thing. May I?
Yeah.
Thank you. The mural is big enough to see from a distance as well, and that's the whole point of it, to be accessible as you're driving, as you're walking down the street, as you're from the pool.
Okay. Anything else from you guys? Rachel?
Yeah, since we're talking about the railing, I'm just wondering, do you feel like the railing will sort of affect the line of sight?
No.
So what are your thoughts on the railing?
It's necessary,
Yeah.
right?
I think it will be fine. I mean, if you do you know how the library does the movies on the lawn? That space is so used by families, the kids. Usually people put strollers in there. I don't think it'll be a negative impact visually.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we did technical feasibility. We've done concepts and realization of the work of art. Artist ability, we discussed that as well. Neighborhood engagement, you're going to get us the documentation on all of that. Thank you. Relationship of the proposed work of art, we've done that. Installation plan and timeline, you're going to work on that, and you're going to give us a budget plan as well. You're going to work on all of those things.
Yes, we have them. We just got to get them.
You're going to get them to us so that we can see them. Okay, now we're going to move on to the donation part of it. So since this is a gift to the city, we've got to go through this thing. And bear with me while I get this all sorted. Right, you've already been to the city commission and they've sent it on to us.
Correct.
So you followed that part of the procedure. Were there any other city-appointed boards or commissions that the city needed to send this to? Do you know that answer to that, Porter?
The HRC will review this next Wednesday at their meeting.
Okay, technical and legal review, is there any legal aspect to this?
Not from a board and commission perspective. That'll be city staff and the attorney's office.
Okay. So we will do the artwork review, site selection review, and a site review, artist qualifications review, and an installation procedures review. Excuse me. The artist qualifications review, do you guys have any questions about their qualifications? I don't want to drag this out to midnight.
No.
From what we have, we're good? Okay. Artwork review. We've already talked about a lot of this. Effectiveness is the design as a communicative piece of artwork. You're going to make the information available so that people will get to know the stories that are behind all of these folks. What will that look like? It just occurred to me. I'd like to know what it would look like.
The archives?
Yeah.
Yeah, so once the mural is painted and we have a celebration, we plan to have a celebration that opens up the archives. So this will be drawings and photos taken by a professional photographer of those local oral histories taken. It will have direct audio. So that would be on our website, but it will also be at the Spencer Research Archives.
Okay. Conceptual compatibility of design with the immediate environment. Any questions from anybody on that? Nope. Appropriateness of the design to the functions of the site. Any questions on that? Good. Preservation and integration of the environmental natural features for the project. Don't think that necessarily applies. Appropriateness of the materials and design to the expression of the artist's concept. I trust you guys know what you're doing. Any questions, though, from anybody on that? Actually, I do have one question on that, and that kind of goes to the next one. Permanence of structural and surface components. So the side of the library there that you want to paint is not just a flat concrete wall. It was done with a particular architectural, do you know the name of that particular architectural style?
It's like stamping, right? A concrete stamping to make it look like a wood effect.
Actually, no, it's called board forming.
Board forming, okay.
And what they do, it's a fairly labor-intensive process, and they get boards, and they blast them or sand, or not sand them, but they raise the grain on them, and then they place those in there, they pour the concrete in, and then they peel those boards away, so they get a very particular look to them, basically the grain of wood. So this isn't just a simple concrete wall that we're talking about. That might be an issue for your painting, but I think it's also an issue for some of the people who think this might not be the best site for it. The other part of that is not only do you have the concrete there, but when they put these boards in, when they put these concrete panels in, they have to silicone between each of the boards. So there's silicone as well as the concrete, and I don't know if that's going to have an effect on your painting of the surface or not, and I don't know if you have the answers to that. It might be something good to find out.
Yeah, when
if you are married to this place. If you're open to other sites, then that may not be an issue. But let's move on. Let's see, where was I? Preservation, integration. Okay. Achievability based on proposal budget plan. Again, back to the budget plan, which we don't have, and you will get to us. Donators recommended site, you've given us that. Okay, site review criteria. You've given us some of the physical dimensions. You've given us social dynamics. I've just talked about some of the local architectural character and the surrounding context of the site, existing or planned. You have mentioned this, with the pool and people walking around. Does anybody else out here have a question on that?
Is this the appropriate time to ask if this is the right location for this beautiful mural?
Well, the site review, yeah, sure.
So I went over there today, and I really wanted to see people, how it's used during the middle of the day in the summer or whatever. And the thing that I most noticed was, there are people. It's fantastic space. There's people sitting all around this whole green space and everything, but particularly they're sitting under the overhang there, all along that wall, which is great. They get up close exposure to where the mural would be and everything, but it also blocks a lot of what we're talking about. Its view from the from the streets and so forth. There's literally the people are covering 2/3, and then there's the overhang, and I'm just wondering if I don't have a particular suggestion myself, but I'm just wondering if there's a place where, there's a lot of flat spaces in that area. Is there another place where it could go where the visibility to it wouldn't be blocked?
All right, and are these people sitting inside of the railed area?
Yeah.
And is it shady?
Well, it depends on what time of day, but
Okay,
this time of day.
because there's an overhang, I was just wondering.
At this time of day it was shady.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Anybody else have a question?
Well, actually, so I really appreciate the community involvement and some of the feedback we've gotten from the community. And one of those letters that I have here is from Dennis Brown, and he actually brought up some of the same types of things that you just mentioned about visibility. And he mentioned, what about the idea of a freestanding structure? Obviously, now we're talking about fundraising again. But a freestanding structure that would be in the plaza would have to be built, but it would mean that it wouldn't actually be on the library itself with that towering architecture and would have more visibility. So what are everybody's thoughts on that?
Is that a question for us or the?
I guess for everybody, but yeah, for you too.
I think that we're maybe we're super, super honored to have a letter of support from the Lawrence Board of Trustees for that specific location, and also a unanimous vote from the city commissioners and mayor for that specific location. The very important topic about having our mural of women of color history on that side of the library is for two main reasons. One, we want to be represented in a space of literature that we haven't been historically before. Two, the public pool across from it used to be segregated, and it's very monumental for the mural to be in that location.
So what if it was in the location, though, in the plaza, just not affixed to the actual wall of the library? You think that would be a different message?
I think the general idea is that we are integrated directly with the public library as a civic space.
Okay.
And as a permanent structure.
Thank
Or,
you.
you know, as permanent as a mural can be.
Okay.
So that means this is where you want it. It's
Yeah.
just on
Yes.
this wall.
Yeah.
You're not willing to look at any other options.
Well,
We went through all of the process, and I feel like we have enough community support.
I will.
Okay.
Let's see. Visibility of the site by the general public. We've kind of talked about that. It is hard for people who are in wheelchairs to get to it and see it. Not everybody has good eyesight, so yes, seeing it from a distance for a lot of people is great, but not for everybody. Public safety, with that railing there and people maybe wanting to get in close, that could be an issue as well. Again, there are stairs on both ends. Moms with strollers won't be able to get as close to it without going on the grass. I mean, you can do it. Obviously, you can get there, but making it accessible, easily accessible for everybody is something to consider.
Have you thought about a sign both at the top and the bottom at each street, and similar to the one down in the 800 block on New Hampshire for the pollinators?
Yeah, that would be great. We have a plaque idea, but
Right now, it's not in our
Yeah,
budget.
you know,
Maybe in the
that
future.
replica of
Yeah.
the mural
In
with
the
some
future,
description
that
of
would be
it.
beautiful
that
to
would be
have.
great to have, right? But that's not in the budget as of right now. I think it would be a great thing to have at the beginning of the library. Like when, you know, that big public sculpture of those oranges right now?
Mhm.
Something close to that where you can get more information about all the art that's at the library permanently or temporarily, like the oranges would be amazing.
Mhm.
But that's not up to
Okay.
So I'm quickly looking through this to see which other ones we need to address. And since you mentioned the oranges, I know you can't really do this because that's a site that changes every year. But relationship of proposed artwork to existing artworks within the site vicinity. Are there any other artworks within the site vicinity?
Not permanent.
There are.
There-
Sorry.
wait.
Across the,
Yeah,
there's the
like-
public, the,
Yes.
The public pool has that very beautiful
Yes.
mosaic.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
we have used similar waves to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wave structure inspired the waves that we made.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Thank you. I think the rest of it, public accessibility yet again, particularly handicap accessibility, that still is a bit of an issue for me. And now, vulnerability to vandalism. I don't know that we can ever make that determination. We've been pretty lucky, not as lucky as we had been in the past. Things have been tagged, unfortunately, but. And you say that you would be responsible for taking care of dings and cracks and things like that, but if it
Correct.
were something bigger than that, what would happen then?
I believe that that would be done between the contract that we would draft with the city.
So Porter, what would that look like?
We have to work with the city attorney's office. It's awkward in the sense that this isn't a project that the city has been soliciting or anything, so there isn't any funding available. So as you pointed out, there would certainly be concerns as if this was going to create a cost for the city in the future. We just, and I also agree. I mean, obviously, it's hard to speculate whether or not this is at risk or has a higher risk or anything like that. So that will be something I have to work through with the city attorney's office.
Cost of site development, then again, that again is a budget thing and we don't have any information on that yet, but we will get it. Artist review criteria. Anybody have any other questions before I move on to this next bit? Okay. Artist presentation. You guys have done a pretty good job of clearly communicating stuff to us, so I think that's okay. Is everybody all right with that? Technical feasibility. Again, ensures that the artwork shall demonstrate its technical feasibility. Artist's work record shall be examined for convincing evidence of the artist's ability to successfully complete the work as proposed. We are looking forward to that happening. Cooperation. The artist shall demonstrate the ability of the artist to work closely and cooperatively with Lawrence Arts Commission, Lawrence City staff, and the Lawrence community in general. I think you've done that pretty well. We need more information from the groups that you've spoken with, as documentation that they've agreed. Have you talked to the general public? I mean, tonight we will have the ability for people to come up and speak to having it on the public library wall. It is kind of like the kitchen of the house. It is the center, the heart of the Lawrence community. And as far as I know, there hasn't been any presentation by you guys in an informal setting. You've done it through the city commission and things like that, but you haven't really engaged the community and chatted with them about where and why and all of that.
So we actually have been posted up at the library for a couple of days while we were working on the final design. We were sitting in the local histories area downstairs, and we shared with our social media platforms that we would be available for anyone to drop in and ask questions and just get to see the design before the color was applied. The color was just applied so that we could present it here, and we hope to show the public this version at the library in continuing weeks, just to continue to have these open conversations at the library.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else from anybody here? Porter?
I think that covers it pretty well. There were the questions that had been generated, and I think we covered all those questions.
Well, I'm going to go through and make sure they've all been covered. All right, the first one is, so when you came to us back in October, you were talking about putting it on the parking garage. And at that point, you had not approached the city about putting it on the parking garage, so you didn't have that permission at that time, correct?
I spoke to city commissioners and mayor directly. I met them for coffee at the public library and also here. I told them about the project. Does that answer your question?
Not really, because what I'm asking you is, you had talked about putting it on the parking garage, but my question is, did you have the okay from the city to put it on the parking garage at that time?
Not formally,
Okay.
because the grant was a maybe.
Thank you. So who said the parking garage wall would not work? That's the question. I didn't come up with it.
Okay. Local muralist, Dave Lawrence, helped me look at the surface. After a rainy day, we realized that the surface, because it is built a little bit underground, you can tell that it sweats and the paint wouldn't stick to it. So if you walk down it, there is a very obvious line through the middle of it and down that you can tell that it's perspiring.
Yeah.
So doesn't all concrete sweat?
So this one has a more... Okay, so the way that this one is because it's subterranean basically, and it's underground a little bit more. It has more moisture access. Like your basement walls you have to do like a moisture barrier, and so...
And you couldn't do a moisture barrier?
Not with this one because it has constant moisture on it. If it does, even with the paint that we're using on that particular surface, it would come out through it. Some concrete is porous.
Yeah, so we started conversations with the Lawrence Public Library about that, and that's how we came, after communication, to paint on the public library, which is a preferred location and truly an honor.
So
Go ahead.
So it was it was the suggestion of the library board to put it on the library rather than on the garage?
No, we asked for permission. That's how we got the letter of support from the Board of Trustees.
When did you get that letter?
I can check my email right now.
The letter was submitted to the letter was submitted in the city commission's packet, and so it was, I can't remember the actual date.
It was before that.
Yeah,
It
we
was
received the letter and.
Before May 15th.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out the
May.
timeline.
Yeah,
here.
no, I understand.
Yeah.
So they met, I think it was about a week before the, or maybe 10 days before the city commission meeting. The library board reviewed this and then submitted the letter. I can pull the letter up if you want in
I'd
the
like to
city
see it,
commission.
yeah.
It's on our website.
We got it in the packet.
I have it on the website too.
Why is that doing? That's crazy.
Because you want to see something.
Yeah. Murphy's Law. All right, hang on. Oh, hang on, let me just pull it up because the Elmo isn't fired up. Thank you, though. Let's see. These are the letters. Whoops, is that it? That's the foundation.
I had it up today and I was getting ready to hit print.
Is it in this packet?
I know.
But I can pull it up really quick. I know where it's at.
Okay. They got it, sorry. Too many digital documents.
Okay.
Just hit continue.
April 23rd.
Thank you. I just
No,
didn't know if that was
And this is-
before
yeah.
you got the grant or where,
So
kind of
we
where
have
we
the-
were in this whole timeline.
So this is the letter here?
Yes.
And, sorry, can you scroll?
Down?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
I mean, so what does that mean?
What does which mean?
The letter.
We support the concept of the project and are open to the proposed location on the south wall.
Sounds like they support the concept and are open.
Yeah, because they don't technically own the building.
And then they pass it on to the city with,
Yeah.
we acknowledge there are many factors for the city to consider. So, okay,
Yep,
all right,
that's what it is.
fair enough.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
Anybody? Okay, sorry.
Do you have, on your website there, do you have any communication from the architect? You said you had worked with the architect, and I guess I'm real interested in that because I come from theater, and when I put a work of art on the stage, I try to find a focus point for that work of art. And to me, the building is a legitimate work of art as well. And I'm interested in how the architect regards the integration of this mural into that work of art. And whether we're looking at one focal point, two focal points, where we are in that. And that I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Could you explain a little bit more?
Can I explain what?
No. So the focal points, or how we looked at the design, we definitely did take into account the architecture. When you look at the overhang, it actually is like a big block of kind of like this terracotta warm red color. And then there's glass, which is opening into the space where people eat and sit and drink, kind of the entrance of the library. So what we did was we took that line and we integrated it with where our design starts or stops, depending on how you want to look at it, from left to right or whatever. And we took that and we generally put our women in the center in the circular space there.
Okay.
We have followed the grid structure. If you look at that photo of the architecture, it has both diagonal and horizontal lines, and we have followed that as well to guide us as a grid for the mural design.
But Mary, your question is more about what's the architect's opinion? Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
So do you all have the architect's opinion on the mural?
Well, generally, they are in support of it. but
Rolf Peterman is in support of it. We cannot speak on behalf of the firm. We cannot speak on behalf of the architect. That's who we have spoken with.
And what was his connection with the library again?
Was he the lead architect?
Yeah.
No, he is one of the architects of the firm that built the library.
So he's part of Gould Evans?
Library.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
I guess I'd still like to see something in writing or hear something, because as I understand it, the library building itself has won awards. So we want to make sure that anything that we do enhances that further.
Do you like
So-
the design?
Do I like the
Yeah, like, do you
the
think
design
that-
of the library or the design of the mural?
The mural on the library. Do you like?
I like the design of the mural. I like the design of the library. I'm trying to integrate the two in my brain as well.
Okay.
I think they're a beautiful integration of both minimalist and colorfulness. If thinking about the awards as well, I believe that there will be many awards won by equity, many awards won by historic presence of this project never done in the Midwest before. So it would also enhance it visually, but more of the mission and vision of the library itself as an equitable space of literature and histories. I think it's a beautiful addition.
Right. That's why the marriage would work, is because of the symbolism of the space itself and the symbolism that is this mural as well.
Is that to your satisfaction?
For now.
Okay. We're going to move on. That was just the first question, then we kind of went off the side. So we got 16. Did the funders or the grant application specify the location of the mural? So when you applied to the Rocket Grant and the other one from the Kansas Creative Arts, did you have to specify where this mural was going to be placed?
So
It was flexible. We had to say a specific wall, but later we spoke directly about the hurdles that we had and the communication that we had with the library, and they're more than open to that location.
Okay, can you make sure that we get that? Shouldn't we have that?
Yeah, I can have that forward as well.
Isn't that information that would be good for the city to have, the city commissioners to have?
To have the applications,
Well,
or
just to have it that they had specified something in the grant application and then they had changed it.
yeah.
And so when you did that, you specified a wall in your grant application.
more location than wall.
So what was the location?
The location was the parking structure until it became technically not sound for us to work on that space. According to Mr. Lowenstein, we did turn our eyes to something that we really wanted, you know?
And so when you wrote that on the application, you had not spoken with the city yet, or you had spoken with the city already about putting it on the parking garage?
It was, I don't know the line of communication. We spoke with Parks and Rec and we spoke with other people, but because the grant wasn't secured. we
Not
didn't-
formally, not
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, we didn't have a secure grant or monies to say we wanted to paint somewhere but we wanted to paint somewhere, right? So we
So
had,
usually when I've had to apply for things, they ask specific information, and you get the permission and stuff, and you say ahead of time, this is where it needs to go. And that's all I'm trying to find
Right.
out is if you had, how this worked, and if you were just
right.
hoping.
Well, the thing that worked, the Charlotte Street Foundation grant is an initiative made to make art in unusual spaces. That was the thing that we wanted to do. It's a grant that is based in Kansas City. Charlotte Street Foundation is in Kansas City, but the grant is actually radiates out to locations at least 30 to 50 miles out. So that qualified Lawrence artists to apply, which we did. We applied for oral history project / visualization of the oral history project in a public city-owned space. What we decided was that we wanted to paint on the parking structure at the library because we liked the traffic there, the flow, the diversity.
Okay.
And that's what it was, yeah.
Okay. All right, so 3 we've already answered. Who are the individuals featured in the mural, and what are their contributions to the Lawrence community? You've mentioned some of them, and yes, obviously they have lots of contributions. During the design development process, who was invited to participate? Were meetings published and open to the public?
They were open to women of color.
Yeah, that's something very particular. So our project is very much about equity, and a lot of our histories have not necessarily been written by women of color themselves. So something important about the project was that create that space for women to write their own histories and have them accessible. So our design team, which is the women and girls of color who created this mural design, is only women and girls of color. Though when we paint, this is a gift for the larger community. Everybody will be accessible to paint and be part of it as well as a historic process.
Okay. The next question was, what if the mural gets tagged? We've talked about that. We also, does the Women of Color team have liability coverage in case anyone gets hurt? And you're doing that through?
Fracture Atlas.
Yeah, that's it. I always forget that name. It's a great name. Is the mural ADA accessible? We've discussed that. Maybe yes, maybe no. Is the donating family agreeable to moving their name plaque? And who will pay for that?
From my understanding of speaking with Brad, they say that they will be willing to remove the sign, and I can forward those conversations while I'm in communication with Brad Allen.
And does that include who will pay for it? That's the main question on here that we haven't answered, because you talked about the other part. But who will pay for that plaque getting moved?
I feel like I won't have a straight answer until I communicate that with Brad specifically.
Right.
Okay.
But they
that's
have
fine.
generally mentioned that they would move the sign.
And so you're kind of hoping that the library will pay for it, that you guys don't have to?
I mean,
Is that
we
what I'm
can always
guessing?
fundraise.
That's what I'm guessing. Okay, this is the next question. South-facing paint colors are subject to rapid fading due to direct sunlight. How will fading issues be addressed in the future?
Yeah, so the mural paint is very specific to sunlight. So it's the highest quality outdoor mural paint.
Okay. Will the overhang on the library cause some areas to fade faster than others?
Potentially, but with the paint being as sound as it is, we anticipate that it would be minimal.
And would putting another coating of something else on top of it help that?
The varnish,
Like a clear varnish.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
That would help
listed.
it. Are you
Yeah.
planning to do that?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
and I
listed
believe
on
it's
the.
in the budget, yeah.
Okay. Do we have documentation of support from neighborhood associations? No, we don't yet. What about documentation of support from local schools for participation in the plans? We kind of talked about that earlier.
Mhm.
And we mentioned this, how frequently would the mural need to be updated and maintained?
It would just depend on if it was to be tagged or something, which is very rarely. Murals are very low budget for upkeep.
So here, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about a little bit. Does the surface of the library lend itself to be painted on? Will the surface need to be altered in any way, such as with panels?
We believe that is such a new structure that it will be the perfect surface for the mural.
It's
And-
beautiful.
And you're going to power wash it?
Yes.
Correct.
That's your plan?
That's the power washing should take care of the cleanliness of that.
And it might affect the grain of it too.
Well,
I don't-
We'll have to. The primer will smooth out a lot of imperfections because it's a thick, high-quality primer, and the paint is also very thick consistency. The viscosity is that which can fill in little divots and holes.
I don't think it would.
don't think-
Yeah, it's such a new structure. The power washer
Yeah.
is not something that would damage concrete.
No.
Okay? How will the logistics of the projection work? Will the projections be visible in the daylight? Would it need to be done at night? You've pretty much answered that, so that's not two left. Does a detailed budget for planned maintenance exist?
That would be done with the city.
Through the contract.
Okay, Porter, you ready for that? And this is a question, but I don't think it pertains, but I'll read it anyway. Does a notarized agreement between the Lawrence Public Library and the artists exist? That's not, Porter, that's not really something,
That's not a requirement. Obviously, the library submitted their letter, which is what we've seen. That's adequate for this circumstance.
But there'll be one between the city and the artist.
Correct.
okay, is there any other questions from anybody else out here before we let you guys sit down and we let the public stand up and say anything they want to about this proposed project?
I had a question along the lines of access to the information that you gathered specifically. You mentioned, it's hard to talk and look at you at the same time. So you mentioned having archival material on your website and access to those oral histories and stories. And I'm wondering if there'll be any way you can kind of get information about what's available more immediately accessible near the mural. And I know Mike mentioned maybe a plaque in the future, but could there be any kind of like hands-on brochure, anything? 'Cause I'm thinking for people that are interested and want to know immediately what's the mural's about, it'd be great to have something that they could.
We would love to
Yeah.
have that available for everyone.
Just something to think about if there's a lot of interest.
There's a lot of like afterlife projects that we want to continue with.
Celebration, we
Yeah.
can for sure
Right.
brochures
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
have accessible facilities in the library and other spaces.
Okay.
What does a celebration look like?
Party.
It'll be kind of like a commemoration almost, or just like the cherry on top, you know. It'll be open to the public. Obviously, anyone who put hands on this piece of art
Yeah.
will be invited and should be there.
We would thank everyone who participated, all the community members who nominated women for the project, particularly through the general nomination, but as well as the kids and the school systems and the clubs.
Okay. Anybody else? No? So I feel like I kind of need to read this to you guys. Please note that the city shall have sole discretion whether to display, move, store, or deaccession the artwork. The city shall have sole discretion whether to ensure donated artwork from theft, damage, or destruction. The city shall have the sole discretion to determine whether artwork which has been damaged or destroyed shall be replaced, rehabilitated, or repaired. So you guys have read all this stuff, so that shouldn't be an issue for you. Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you, ladies. We will open it up now to people to come and speak to this if they want to.
Thank you.
Did you have something else, Jerry?
Thank you both.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate all the questions.
Okay, yep,
Paper, get everyone's information.
we will wait.
There we go.
Sign a sheet.
So what's the rule? Sign in and then address.
And if you can state your name and address, and also just so everybody knows, you can adjust this podium up and down by holding the button, and that way to make sure the microphone is close to your mouth. Oh, and we're going to use the shot clock, same as City Commission, so each speaker has 3 minutes. Natalie will start the clock when that person starts speaking, and then just say 3 minutes to let you, the chair, know that that 3 minutes is up.
Go ahead.
I don't wait till it starts.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ursula Miner. I am a lifelong Lawrence resident. My family's been in Lawrence since the 1900s, a long time. Lawrence hasn't always been that happy, fun place that it is now. But don't get me wrong, because I do love Lawrence. That's why I stayed here. The library is a all-inclusive place, a good place to put the mural. I'd like to say that I am an artist myself. I am on the library board of trustees. I had the honor of being on there at the inception of the library when it started, from the top to the bottom. I love that library. But I think the mural represents bigger than me. It'll be welcoming. It represents women of color. A lot of the women have done great things in the community. I'm president of the Lawrence branch NAACP. We have done a lot of things in the community. I just want to say that I think it'll be a great addition to the library. We talk about at our board meetings being all-inclusive. What a great way to welcome people to the library. Thank you.
My name is LaPortia McConico. I live at 2100 Haskell. I have been in Lawrence, Kansas since 2003. I just wanted to say that the first question I would ask you is how many of us in this room have a piece of artwork in our home? I'm sure most of us have gone out to Hobby Lobby, to wherever we go to get our artwork, because it's something that's a reflection of your home, your likes, dislikes, how you feel. In this same instance, we would also use this mural for the same. If you look even in this room, we have a combination of people of different colors, different nationalities, and this is something that brings us as a community together. Now, at the library, having it in that particular location, as Connie mentioned, it is a central place in this town. The majority of us have visited at least once. We have active summer programs to where it would be visible and it would be seen by a good portion of the population here. It would be a good representation of what we in Lawrence represent. We are also called progressive, and by having that mural there, we would be seen not only in verbalization of being progressive, but we'd also have something visual to say, hey, we are progressive, we're inclusive, we bring the community together. It is important to have these things available to our community members because the community doesn't consist of just one group of people. There are many groups of people represented in this room, and it's important to every single person who's in this room who's come out today to support this project to say, hey, we lend a voice. It is important to share our culture, to share our experiences, to have our voice be present in this community. This is not something that we should take lightly. Although, yes, the library is beautiful, it can also be improved, and this mural will improve that. I said, anytime that you bring color and culture and togetherness into a building, it can't be anything but beautiful. It can't be anything but beautiful. So I would ask you that I know that not everyone may support it, but I just ask that you have an open mind. Because when it comes down to it, don't shut it down before you get all the knowledge. We are very much committed to making sure that this project is the best project that it can be. We're not here to do things mediocrely. We're here to make sure that it's the best quality, that is maintained, and that it'll be here for generations, and so that it will have a story so that we have something to speak with the children of our community, with everyone here. I say even having the celebration is a way of bringing people together. We don't want to have separation. We don't want people to be socially isolated. We want to have things that bring people together, and this mural will do that. Thank you.
Good evening.
Would you sign in first, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Carrie Cornelius, and I was a little kid that used to love to go swimming across the street from the library and walk over there across the street into the library when you're all wet and freeze in there. And there were pictures of the city of Lawrence a long time ago that were up in the children's area. And there were pictures of, I think, the flood that happened in the library a long time ago. And I grew up at Deerfield, so I'm a Lawrenceonian. And I went to Topeka and came back to go to school at Haskell and graduated KU, and then worked on the Navajo Reservation for the next 17 years. I'm now the director of the Haskell Library. My letter is in support of these young ladies who came out and not only initially met with us in our communities of women there to find out who our matriarchs were, but then came back in an orderly way and met with our students and our faculty to find out who were our leaders and who were our student leaders to include in here. And the importance of libraries, I could go on forever how important they are to communities, but also to be a welcoming place on that side of the library to those people that are playing, those little people that are playing and swimming, to feel welcome in there. Once the Lawrence Library was redone, they had a project, and they had pictures up on the sides. And one of the pictures was J.J. Atokney. And J.J. is Comanche, he's Hopi, and he has long hair that's probably past his behind as an 8th grader now. And to see his face up there, and I'm like 49 years old now, and it was only a couple years ago, to see his face on the library as a child made me cry. And I parked outside of the post office because it was so emotional for me to see a Native person on the side of the library. That used to be my home when it just had historical pictures in there. But to have it be a welcoming place to these children that are also going to help create the project is a dimension that I could never have imagined. But I ask for your support, each one of you, in this project. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
Hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm a little nervous. So I am a California native. I actually work at the library, and I love working there. It's probably one of the best places to work. It is probably one of the best places to work, I think, in Kansas, because I've dealt with a lot, and I feel like they do listen to the community. But I'm not talking as a library representative, but as myself. The mural to me is very important because my first language is Spanish. I almost failed 5th grade because I didn't know English that well. I know that the Lawrence Library is making steps towards being more inclusive, not only in staff, and I obviously work there, but I know that it's a very English-centric library, and I do give tours to Plymouth, which is they offer English learning classes to adults. And in one of the tours, they did mention how English-centric it was and how there isn't necessarily programming or the collection doesn't necessarily reflect or is welcoming to non-English speakers. But I also know that the library is making efforts to be more inclusive in their collections and their staff. And so this is not a snub against them at all. But I want to point out how having a mural there would be so important to indicate that movement forward, to be more inclusive of the community that does not see itself reflected in the library, and especially to non-English speakers, which I was once when I was a little girl. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sally. I'm a third-year undergraduate student at the University of Kansas. English is also my second language. I also learned Arabic, Chinese, and Spanish through my time in the multicultural United States of America and in Kansas. I'm from here. The mural belongs here, just like I do. I think it shows the support and determination of the members of this project that we are still here. We have a problem of racism and sexism in the city and country. To remember history is to improve the future. To remember our Kansas, Lawrence history, abolitionist history, erased history is important. Access is important, I agree. I have disabilities. I think we all have a myriad, and we're all on the spectrum. For me, my disabilities are mental. And I think that we have on our mural, I'm actually represented coming out of water, and that is how I feel when I come out of different episodes of my mental illness. However, I'm still a STAR student. I still contribute to society. And I think that it's important to think about the wheelchair, but it is not on us to fix all of the problems. We are here to fix the ones that we are in control of, and we are here to uplift the voices of those who are able to fix the problems that have coexisted alongside us, including those who have to use wheelchairs in order to access spaces that we can, as physically able-bodied people, access. This mural is a celebration to me, honestly. I think it's a beautiful mural of just women smiling. And in my opinion, evolution, over time, erosion, I think all of this is more important than our focus on awards. And I think that anything that is powerful, that has passion, that is art, should win the awards. So again, I am an immigrant, but I also want to be permanent. I want to have a reason to stay here and to contribute. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Vick, and first of all, I want to say, I look at all these beautiful faces over here, and I want to say I am highly supportive of this mural project. I think it's wonderful to tell these stories. I want to know this history that I probably don't know nearly as much about as I should. I want to see the mural project go forward. I just don't want to see it on the library wall, and it's really hard to get up here and say that to all these wonderful faces. I was one of those people who fought really hard to make this library a reality in our town, to make sure we had the library we deserved. I was on the Vote Yes for the Library committee. I put up yard signs. I raised money, the private funds that we needed for the library, and I was one of the people that made sure it happened for us. And it was a long, hard fight. I'm sorry, it's really hard to stand up here and say this because clearly I'm not in the majority in this room tonight, although there are a lot of silent people out here that agree with me. I really do believe in this mural project, I really do. I think maybe the best solution is the panels on the lawn that were spoken about earlier, and I personally would donate to support those panels. I would help raise funds for those panels. The library is an award-winning building. It means a lot to me. It's personal to me. I personally stood on the day we opened the doors to the public, and I'm not exaggerating, with tears in my eyes because it meant so much to me that we had the library that our community deserved. I just really don't want anybody to paint on it. It has nothing to do with the subject matter, nothing to do with the subject matter at all. I have 6 grandchildren I love more than life itself. I wouldn't paint their pictures on the library either because I just don't want it painted on. Truly, ladies, it has absolutely nothing to do with you or your history. I truly want to see that mural painted. So anyway, I just love the library, and I would like to see the award-winning building left alone. Thank you.
Hi.
Would you sign in, please, first?
Yes. I'm Sandra Yoder, and I have been part of the design team for this mural. I also really appreciate some of the comments that I've heard coming through here, and something that's really struck me that's been sticking in my head since I heard it said is the idea of looking at works of art and finding a focal point, and just how that resonates with me as a metaphor for living as a person of color in Lawrence and looking at what the focal points generally tend to be. To me, I look at Lawrence, I see KU. I understand that that's a point of pride here. The library is another point of pride, and I hear the pride in voices here trying to preserve something about that. But I want to represent too that focal points change, and communities change, and people change. Our world is changing. There are more people that are going to be coming to Lawrence that look like me. I don't think that Lawrence is really prepared for that, and I don't feel like it's been prepared to receive me as a community member here. I want to improve that. I work hard to be part of that, but in honesty, I am in a small minority here in a community that is predominantly 80% plus white, and that is something that as a woman of color I feel every day. I still love this community, and I just want us to think about how the focal point of Lawrence could shift to include more voices, to include more people, to include more colors, to include different definitions of what art looks like, and maybe to consider what it looks like when we blend focal points. Because I hear from Rolf that this is a work of art that's been significantly important to him and something that he still welcomes us adding to, making change to, adding in addition, and seeing just what possibility lies ahead when we're willing to combine those types of focal points. To me, that's an exciting possibility. I know it can be kind of scary to look at that types of change, but it's also, I don't want us to lose sight of the possibility behind that and what good could come from something like this, even in the face of what could be a scary change for some. So I want to say that I hear what everyone's saying, and I still stand by the painting on the library in this space. I think that there's been a lot of good reasons stated for why that would make a good space and why that would make people like us feel more included in the Lawrence community. And I hope that everyone can understand the importance of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Monica Carvajal. I am originally from San Jose, Costa Rica, but I have lived in Lawrence for approximately 13, 14 years, so pretty much my entire life. I grew up here. I went to the public library as a kid. I went to the Lawrence public pool, the outdoor pool right across the street. I got lost once. My brother didn't pick me up from my swim lessons, and I had to go to the library to try and call my parents. And it's always been this safe space for me that I don't have in a lot of other places in this city, in this state, in this country. And so for me, going off of what was previously stated, that this library, this new library is the library that we deserve. For me, this mural on this library is the library that we deserve, the library that I deserve, the library that every person of color in this city deserves. And not even just people of color, just everyone. You know, I don't really understand how that could be seen as anything other than a positive, and it's not taking away from the library, it's adding to it, it's making it a safer space, it's making it colorful, it's adding life to this building that honestly, like, it has architectural awards, but I mean, who doesn't want to be the first, the place where the first woman of color mural by women of color has been built and has been done in Kansas? I just don't understand how that is not bigger than any award that could be given, and if anything, could honestly this library could be given more awards for the fact that it's, progressive, that it's doing things to show the community around us that it's supportive and that it is a welcoming space, which is what I believe it is, but me believing it and me seeing it are two different things.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shirley Bronlick. I've been in Lawrence since about 1985, and I love Lawrence Public Library. I definitely supported the new building, and I'm very proud of the library building. And the awards, I don't think that a mural is going to change or negate anything. I think that a mural is going to symbolize a greater welcoming and a greater representation of a more whole community. And hopefully we will grow to be a more whole community through this. And I'm very proud that we are talking about this. I think it's an extremely important conversation. And I hope that we all start talking more with each other about how to come together more.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hello, how's it going? Let me put my name down for you really quickly. Alrighty, I need to put my address too. I'll do that at a later time. Alright, so I stand here at this podium right now to tell you, my name is Zaire Barry. I live here in Lawrence. I'm a student at KU studying social welfare, and I stand at this podium not only to tell you why it's important to have this mural, but why it's imperative, right? This mural represents more than just the individual person. It represents more than the pieces that you see in this room, but the sum of our parts, right? When a child sees this mural, this represents the future. This represents hope, and it represents unification. When a child sees this mural, it represents something that's more than just me. It represents something that's more than just the people that have come up here to talk to you, right? It represents everything that our struggles have been for the last 400 years. It represents everything that our struggles have been just in each lifetime, right? To see this mural, a child will say, I can be what I want to be. I can be inspirational, I can be powerful, and I can have a place in this world that is meaningful, right? So every single time that someone interacts with this mural, every single time that someone looks at this mural, it's not just an image on a wall. It's so much more than that. It's always been more than that. We're talking about visibility here. We're talking about history that is not shown in your history books. We're talking about stories that are not told in your everyday interactions, right? When you see this mural, people are going to ask questions. People are going to wonder who is on here. And because of that, we're going to start more knowledge. We're building our society. We're building our community. We're making Lawrence a better place. This is a public good. This is more than just a picture. This is so much more than that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Omari Zamora, and I'm a faculty member at the University of Kansas. I have been living here in Lawrence about a year tomorrow. So yay, anniversary. So it's actually I come at a very exciting time where there are many changes happening at the university, good changes in some ways, but also good changes happening here in Lawrence. I am from a big city. I am from Chicago. I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly of color. So for me, moving to Lawrence was a big cultural adjustment in every kind of way, not just in terms of an urban setting, but also I'm a minority entirely, right? In many places I go, but now in a place that I live. And that's always very cautionary to me. And I can't say that it's been a super welcoming place, because that is not true. I can tell you of many instances where things have been kind of strange. But there are also many instances where it has been welcoming. And one of the things that has been welcoming to me is the idea of this mural and the project that I see these wonderful women undertaking, but also the way that it has brought together different people here in Lawrence that are also part of the majority to try to make this mural come to life. One of the things that I find very interesting is even just thinking more broadly about what brings awards, right? As a faculty member, awards are a thing for us too, right? But then I also think as an individual, and I thinking about, I need to get my award so that I can get my money, so that I can get more awards, so that I can get more grants, and it can be great, and I can have a trophy that I can show off, great, awesome. But I also think about moments where I can do things that have meaning and can change lives that are not going to get me an award. And that means helping students of color that are first generation at the university. That means providing resources that are outside of my job description to students who do not have access to them. And I am very proud of that, and I don't need an award for that, right? To me, it's not about winning an award, it's about winning history, right? If we think about history and the different wonderful things that have happened in Kansas, right, that have been very progressive, those things didn't win awards, right? But they win history, right? And they make us who they are, and they make people like me who come to Lawrence want to stay here and want to continue to contribute to being and living here into the future of what is Lawrence. There are things that I know are concerns in terms of the mural. I will say that one of the first murals that I saw here in Lawrence that I felt that I was somewhat represented in is actually tucked away in a corner in a little alleyway between Mass Street and the little alleyway on the back between 8th and 7th. And it's very high up on the end of a building. And it has Native people on it, and it has people of color on it. And I was like, wow, this is great. But it's somewhere where no one sees it, right? So I think having it where we are suggesting to have it on that library wall is for people to see and for people to come together around it and gather, and for it not to be off in a corner where no one sees it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stan Ring. I'm an avid user of the library and a resident here for some 25 years, even after school. Some practical things for a minute. That west side of the building now has a big concrete slab back there, and that's where they have 3 to 4 big book sales a year out there which block that whole side, that whole west side. We have an awning we put up to try and block the sun, so that also blocks that west side. People, when they pull up to donate books, block that west side. Delivery vans block that west side. That is just a very busy area. The summer lunch program, I believe it is held out there, and tables and stuff are shoved up against that west wall. Just so you know that is a very active piece of concrete out there in front of that wall. The second thing you had talked about why you didn't use the parking garage, and the sweating of the concrete there I'm sure is a problem, but know that the south wall of the library down at that level and that west wall is also underground. Behind that wall is concrete and dirt. That wall will also sweat in the same way. So you might want to consider that as you start putting ink on paper. Thank you.
Who's next?
Hello, my name is Leah Evans. I have lived in Lawrence for about 18 years. I have played the role of the photographer on the design team of the mural, and I just want to emphasize to you how committed we are to this project, how our hearts and our souls have been poured into it. It is who we are, and I feel like, we got the permission of the library and the city, which is what we need to actually put it there. So we're presenting this to you today, not over the location because that's a non-issue now, but for you to trust us that we will make this happen, and that we are 100% committed, 1,000% committed. We have already spent hundreds of unpaid hours working on this, and our soul is
out here in front of you, and we love it. We've made the best of friends. It's been such an incredible experience, and I can't wait to share it with the community on a massive level. I also want to say one thing about wheelchair accessibility and stroller. You'll see me around town. I'm pushing my stroller all the time with my daughter. That place was not accessible before we got there, but it kind of seemed like nobody was worried about it being accessible until we wanted to go there. So we did address that it isn't accessible to wheels in our mural, and I mean, I hope that it would be addressed. I think maybe it would be up to the city or the library to make it a more accessible space, but yoga classes and movies and activities happen there all the time, and we weren't concerned about wheelchair accessibility until now. Also, people are saying that they're worried about our mural being blocked because it's a busy area, but we want it to be in a busy area. I'm not going to be upset if there is a tent set up in front of it for the book sale for a few days. That doesn't bother me. It's a temporary thing. I want lots of people to see it. So people sitting in front of it, kids hanging out after school, standing in front of it, I don't think that's an issue either. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
My name is Brenda Nunez, and I'm very honored to be one of the women that was chosen to be on the mural. I've lived in Lawrence for 71 years. I grew up doing Jim Crow in Lawrence, Kansas, and the library was the only place that allowed us to come in and sit down. It was the only place in town we could sit and read and not be bothered by other people because we weren't allowed to eat in the restaurants. If we went in, we weren't allowed to come into the restaurant. So I'm very proud that the library has been in my heart forever. So I'm very proud that it was chosen to have the mural on. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I'm the Dave Lowenstein that was mentioned a few times for those of you who don't know who I am. I've been a practicing muralist for 30 years, done quite a few murals here in Lawrence. And I wanted to say first off that I am so impressed with the presentation that this group has made, the thoroughness in which they addressed your new criteria. Never before in my experience, and I served on the commission for many years, have I heard a group present with such thoroughness and detail. And I have great confidence that they will provide all the additional documentation that you asked for. Some of it was actually in their presentation. You might have missed it, but that's to be worked out later. I was taking notes. I also want to mention, because I've witnessed this via the media and via folks who I know were part of the process, that this has been the most inclusive and excellent mural process that I've witnessed in this community as well. And especially in a way in which Lawrence has not been inclusive in the past. This is unique. This is unusual. This is a first. I also want to talk about the location. The location proposed for the mural in the library is an excellent location, highly trafficked. We've heard about all of the different uses of that space. People come up close to it. They can see it from a distance. There's a green space adjacent to it. There's a park across the street. There's the swimming pool across the street. It will have excellent viewership from many different vantage points. It also complements the architecture. You know, we're not choosing a sofa for the living room here. We're talking about art. And in this case, I think this is a brilliant jewel set within the perfect frame. It will highlight it in the most beautiful and wonderful way. Last thing I wanted to say is how lucky we are as Lawrencians, as a community, to be offered this gift. It's a gift of strength, a gift of beauty, and a gift of significance. Thanks.
Who's next?
Hi, my name is Alexa Tapia. I live in Lawrence. I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight, so bear with me. I've lived in Lawrence for going on 9 years, and on my way over here, I stopped by the Lawrence Public Library with my daughter, who's 5, who was born here, and we grabbed the book Malala's Magic Pencil. If anyone hasn't checked it out, they should, but it's about a woman of color who didn't see herself in her world, and so she carved a space for herself. And I feel like, if anything, we should be thanking these designers and teams, because so often as a woman of color growing up, I didn't and still don't see a space for myself. And growing up, one of the most pivotal things for me was having access to literature, because even in those small spaces, I could see representation and a larger growth. And so I think there's something, while there are other spaces available, there's something intimately profound for those of us who so often have not seen ourselves, whether it be in society or in Lawrence, about being attached to a place that would epitomize the intellectualism of women of color and our achievements and contributions, knowing that for so long we have been the backbone of communities. Not that we need that recognition, but haven't deserved it, or haven't received it. Totally not what I meant to say. But and as far as the mural being blocked, every Saturday I wake up at 7 a.m. and go to the Lawrence Farmers Market and stand there at front. You may have seen me registering voters in the heat and the rain. But there's a mural there that is regularly blocked by cars and vendors and whatnot, and traffic. And I've been to some of these meetings before, usually in the background. I'm a single mom, so I don't get to come out often, but when I do, I try to listen. And I haven't really seen this type of conversation taking place. I do understand accessibility. It's something that's very important that I think people in my position who advocate regularly for social justice regularly talk about. So I'm glad that that's at the forefront of this conversation. I do wish this would have taken place when the space itself was created. The onus of that shouldn't have been on the artists. But I do think that also had something really good to say, and I forgot where it was going. But so I hope that we will consider that. And I understand it's an award-winning library. I was also here when that took place. And I hope that we will really look at and really try to unpack why we think adding a mural with women of color would devalue that, and what really are we devaluing there. Because if anything, it would enhance it. And when they talked about having one of the first murals of women of color, Lawrence has prided itself on that regularly. And just last year, I walked into a space and was asked for my papers. And seeing that on the library, knowing that that solidifies how welcome and encouraging it is of our growth. So I just hope we can explore that.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Jasmine Ding. I'm a really quiet person, so I'm kind of like shaky right now.
Take a deep breath.
But sorry, I get really nervous. But I used to be a former KU athlete, and to me, this mural, as said, is a lot about representation. And all about representation. And the reason why I was an athlete was so that I could show people like me that we can be athletes and we don't necessarily just have to be stuffed in books. But due to unfortunate accident, a school fractured concussion, and then another blackout concussion, I had to end my career early. So this is another way for me to show representation of the fact that we can be something more than what we are thought to be. And with that, because of my concussions, and I've had many other brain injuries, I know that someday I will not be able to comprehend the importance of being a human and the importance of the human experience. And I just hope that with this mural being on the library wall, that someday I can come back and remember maybe something about being human. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Hidayah Duwashte. Good evening. I'm Sierra Tubles. I am an Oglala Lakota from the Oglala Sioux tribe. It's on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. So my homelands are in South Dakota. I've been living here for about 6 years. I transferred here to Haskell Indian Nations University, and I went on to KU, so I'm proud alumna from both. But coming here, even though I prepared myself for a culture shock, it still was a culture shock. And seeing myself not being represented at all, you know, it's like that everywhere here in present day America, of course. And how ironic it is, because as a Lakota woman, being a descendant of the original people here, you know, it sucks, you know, not being represented at all, you know. So this is why and also I'm a part of the design team, so you know, I can't stress the importance of the visibility part of it. You know, English is not my first language either, and I would just love to see more representation, love to see more people like me on there, on any mural. So having this opportunity to be a part of the first Women of Color mural is amazing. And so, yeah, I just want to stress the part of the visibility and representation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eileen John. I am a Haskell alumni, and I hope to get into the KU Law program. I've been here, I've lived here for 8 years. That's including my time at Haskell. My uncle went to Haskell here and KU. I have aunts that went to Haskell and KU, so we have a very strong connection to this place, with it being in the central states. We're not from around here at all. We're from Arizona. My mother's side is from Washington, and my dad's side is from Arizona. So we really don't have any business being in this area, but we've been drawn to this area through education, and to see their the representation of the Navajo woman up on the mural really means a lot to me. My aunts taught me how to tie my hair traditionally, and to see it potentially be up on a wall somewhere for other people to see really means a lot. Nowadays, when natives are depicted anywhere, they're usually with a single feather or with a headdress. So I try to stay away from kind of stereotypical images like that, because that's not who we are, that's not who my family is. And I don't want people seeing me with those images and assuming that, you know, that's the image that I want to project. And I really appreciate the way Lawrence has treated my family and I. I have been in situations where I wasn't welcome in an area, I wasn't welcome in a store. So I feel like women of color being up on a wall represents strength. It solidifies our our space here, that we are welcome here, that we are welcome to invite our family here, that whoever we do invite can be welcomed warmly. We as Native people, as women of color, of any color, are natural storytellers. When we depict a story, it's not somewhere that it's hidden. It was always in a main area. You know, the cave dwellings always had their depictions in a main area or in a sacred area. So for them to put it on the library, I think is the idea matches. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, hi, my name is Mary Gage. I have lived in Lawrence for, oh gosh, a long, long time, 40 years at least. I have been a library lover all of my life. It has been my sanctuary. I was one of 10 children, and it was where I went for my solace. So when I came to Lawrence, I kind of gravitated toward the library, but I also wondered why, it was kind of an old space. It didn't get a lot of attention. And I was a K student, I stayed here, and I always hoped that the library would be more than it was. When we started talking, the community started talking about a new library, there was a long, long time and a lot of talk and a lot of votes and a lot of communication about how to make a new library, if we can make a new library. And there were lots of people in this community of all types and all colors who came together to finally, after years and years and years, build this new building. And there are so many people that did that, and the community who are very, very passionate about this building, that love this building and believe in this building. And for them, it has been an incredible piece of work, just in general, to have for our community. Now, that said, when I first came into this conversation about the Women of Color mural, I really had no opinion about where the location of this mural would be. There's been a lot of talk about where the location of this mural would be. I honor and I embrace the idea of the Women of Color mural, as I think almost everybody I have talked to. I think the whole issue is not whether we support this mural and these histories and all of this work that has been done. Almost everybody I know, to a person, supports this work. There are people that are of all colors and all shapes and kinds who support this work and don't want to see it on the building. So, all I can say is I have two questions. One, why aren't we talking about, and why aren't the Women of Color project people open to any sort of compromise of not having it on the building, but having it other places? And two, shouldn't we be honoring everybody in our community? Everybody.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Meredith Moore. I represent Wonder Fair as well as myself personally, so we're heavily involved in the arts. I'm here tonight to say with great candor that I absolutely love the library building as it is. I aesthetically find the mural proposition not to my taste, but I absolutely believe the mural should be on the library building as proposed and presented here tonight. And I want to point out that I just don't like lime green that much. There's a lot of reasons a person can find the mural not a match for the library aesthetically, but I think it's a match for our community and for what the library represents in its in the mural's current form. It belongs on the library building, and I've read the LJ World in the past, and I know many people find the library itself very ugly. I disagree with them, but I'd like to point it out that that is a matter of taste, but I think the mural is a matter of something greater. I would like to echo what Connie said, that I wish I could remember perfectly, but equity is a greater reward that I think we would gain from supporting this project, particularly since it would be the first mural of its kind in our city. And even if I didn't feel that they were a perfect blend, I would come to find the mural something I took great pride in as a white woman in Lawrence, which I think is a city that should live to a higher standard. And I'd also like to speak to, for my last minute or so, something I've encountered, which is that when I have a difficult conversation about this mural with people, there's a sense of frustration that the issue has become racialized. But people of color are constantly faced with confronting that reality, and it is fair that we should be having this difficult conversation, and ideally having it in a way that places the value of the human lives in our history and in our current day above even a very beautiful building. I think the library represents all the stories inside of it, and putting these stories on the outside will be much more meaningful in the long history of time, and I would love to see the mural every day, even lime green, because as a person who's studied the history of art, this is the sort of thing that ends up in a history book and changes lives. It's very rarely the beauty of the outside of the building, but the stories that are within it and that created it. And I really respect the women here today who have done such good work, and I raise your voices up and congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you. How are the rest of my commissioners doing? Okay, good.
Hi, my name is Zach Newby. I'm an undergraduate student at KU and a patron of the library. I think there's absolutely nothing more fitting than putting this mural, a Women of Color mural, on an award-winning library. I also think, as a city that prides itself on being progressive and thinking that it's liberal, that this is not necessarily the bare minimum, but a starting point that we could do for women of color that have lack of representation in their schools, the work, the media, everywhere. I think we should think about the future of how this can stimulate, one, more conversation, but two, what other murals, what else can go in place to help representation? Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Morgan McComb. I am a graduate student at KU. I'm also the assistant manager at the Raven Bookstore. I've only lived in Lawrence for 2 years, but something that I do spread far and wide about this community is its library. I'm actually originally from Mississippi, and it is a place that hides its history well and often, and I do not see this as a community that strives to do that. And I think that one way that we can strive to not do that is to have a Women of Color mural at the library, where so much of that library, though it is a beautiful building, that's something else I always mention, that there's this wild and beautiful building in downtown Lawrence, but that a library is more about the people that inhabit it rather than the actual architectural features of the building, and this People of Color mural goes a lot of way to bridge the gap between those two. So I'm greatly in support of it, and I appreciate the efforts of everyone from the Women of Color mural. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any last words? Nope. Going once? Going twice? Okay. Thank you all. And I have heard that in the past, this conversation hasn't been quite as civil, and I appreciate everybody being respectful of everybody else in the room, so thank you. Okay, Porter, tell me what's next. What are we doing now?
The task of the Art Commission is to make a recommendation to the City Commission as to how this should or should not proceed.
And what are our 3 options?
Basically,
3 options?
well, I mean, you can always put different things on your, recommendation, so to speak. So, but basically, yes, no, or with these considerations in mind.
Okay, you guys, what do you want to say? What do you think?
I'm willing to support it, provided we get the items that we listed, the budget and a couple of other things.
So we need.
That we listed.
There were a few things that hadn't been included in the application process that we're waiting for. The documentation from the groups, the support, and the budget seem to be the biggest ones in my mind.
It sounds like they have the information, it just was not included in the application.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything?
I agree. I'm in support of the project, pending that documentation.
Okay. Everybody?
I'm in support of the project pending some support from the architects.
Okay. For my part of it, I am in support of the project. So I'm sorry, I don't talk much, so.
Take some water. Water.
Yeah, it's not going to help that much. So I'm in support of the project for sure. I would like to see there be more discussion amongst the community about where it goes. I'm a little bit concerned that your feeling at this point is to not discuss having it anyplace else, that you're adamant about having it on the library. I'd like for that to be a little more open, the possibility of other things, even of having it on panels. I know that I've had communication from people who have spoken with various members of your group and asked you about other possibilities. I understand why you want to have it on the library, but as a community, I think we need to have more open discussions about this. We learned this, just let me finish. We learned this when we went through the whole East Ninth Street process. And one of the things we learned from that is that you need to have everybody involved. You need to get the Cole community involved. No one wants to feel like they're being pressured into something. So being more inclusive and communicating with the whole community, I think, would be to the benefit. And when this goes to the City Commission, that would be my added bit to this, is that, yes, we like the idea. I think the idea is great, but just for the whole community to have more of a chance to have a discussion. And I don't want it to be a battle. I want it to be like it's been tonight. You know, you guys have had some great things to say about this, and we've heard from a few other people. I know that there are a lot of other people out there who would like to have their voices heard, and I think a lot of them would like to have a discussion with everybody. And I'm sure that you could convince them the way that you've been talking to us. So that's what I would like to see for this. What did the rest of the group think?
I think the passion that all of you bring to the project is so impressive that if other folks that didn't have an opportunity to be here tonight could be exposed to your stories and your passion and all the underlying history and anecdotes and all the wonderful things that you're bringing to this, it would be much easier for them to accept it and to buy into the project and to work with you on this. And I think that's what you want. isn't it to bring everybody together on this?
Would you please come up, because we're videoing this thing, so.
So, from my understanding, the conversation was to happen in terms of location when we asked the city commissioners if we could paint on the library. That's why we made a design for the library wall. We've spent hours on that specific location with the idea that we had the library on board and the city commissioners.
So it's the city, you have to get the written documentation from the city about where to put it. What we're doing here tonight is we're just going through the process for the site review and all of that stuff. It is obvious that there are members of the community who are not on board with this yet. And all I'm suggesting is that it would be really good if we had the community more involved with this, like we did with the 9th Street process, where they had.
Can we do a press release?
Yeah,
Would that be
a press release. Yeah, we've been working on a press release, but we wanted to make sure that we went through all the avenues of securing the wall or getting permission to even paint has been a long process. So I've just been very confused as to what it meant then to present at city commission and get a unanimous decision.
Porter, can you address this?
Has there been a city commission ruling on this?
The city commission grant, so this is, as I explained at the city commission meeting, this is somewhat unique in the sense that most of the time murals that have come before the art commission the last few years have been on private property. And so part of our guidelines are to secure permission from the property owner with awareness about maintenance and all those things that go along with any kind of public art. This was different. You guys did work with the library and things. I met with you early on, and then I didn't hear anything for a while until I heard from the library that this was progressing. I'm just explaining how we got here sequentially.
The timeline is good.
So on May 15th, we asked the city commission for approval to move forward with the process, which they gave that approval.
Right.
It's here and then to the HRC, and then it will go back to the city commission for final approval, is the sequential process. I'd like to add a bit of information here, looking at the big picture and being the guy that's sitting in the bureaucratic seat, for better or for worse, and also somebody who's done a lot of public art for a lot of years. Some of the issues that are here, one, I concur with everybody. Great presentation, the project, everything you've done is terrific. Part of what people have to think about in bureaucracies is precedent setting. So that if this mural goes on this wall, that means that opens the door for other people to promote their ideas potentially on the library or other buildings.
Public buildings,
Public
right?
buildings,
so they would have to
exactly.
have permission from the city to
They would have to
even
go
start
through the
that,
same process.
Which is what we're.
So this process is really important because there may be people that have different ideas about what they'd like to see on that wall that may be more or less agreeable than current circumstances.
So I was
hang on, I'm just filling in some of the blanks. That's one. Two, always the issue is time. So if paint goes on this building, it will be there potentially forever. And it will deteriorate. I mean, that's just the thing. And I hear that it will last a good long time, and happily, absolutely right. This is the best paint that you can get, that's current things. But we're talking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and what is the impact of that? Hard to predict, hard to speculate, but just holding that awareness is really important and part of our practical obligation as representatives of a city facility, which will certainly be there for many decades to come. So, and I'm not making judgment on that. I'm just saying that these are the things that need to be considered from that practical side.
So could you clarify what the city has approved?
Yeah.
They've approved receiving a gift from the muralist?
No, I thought we
They've
approved.
the
Wait.
site
Please
itself?
let them have this discussion.
What has the city approved?
We'd actually have to look at the minutes to see the actual language.
And please, just one of you up there at a time. And I really don't want to open this up again to public comment, so if I ask specific questions, great.
There's actually a motion and, a vote, so we can actually see the actual language that they used.
what to the city commission for consideration?
Recommendation.
A recommendation.
That's in your
That's our recommendation.
resolution. So you make you enter advisory board to the city commission.
The commission has they've asked to receive our input.
And they make the final decision.
Our input on it being on the south and west wall of the library building.
On everything. On all of it, right?
Right, your recommendation on how to proceed.
Okay, so the city has, the commissioners have asked us to do what's in our charter and to do our job. Okay, great.
Okay. We good?
So I'd like to say something else. I'm a little bit concerned about the idea of, I too appreciate the outstanding work that's done here, and I can obviously see the passion. I'm just going to say I'm very supportive of this, and I'm supportive of it going in the location you all are asking for. I personally don't think it's the best location, but that's not my, my personal opinion doesn't matter. I'm a little bit concerned about our group asking these folks to holding up the process, asking these folks to get more, community opinion when, this is an open meeting and folks had the opportunity to show up and say whether they hated it or whether they didn't hate it.
Please, we can't really hear it. Thank you.
And people came and said what they wanted to say. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with us asking them to complete our checklist as we've designed it and to present to us the budget. I think that's important. I think the insurance part is important. I think we've identified, I think it would be great to get a letter or an opinion from the architects. I think that would be wise. And they may come back and say as a group we can't support or not support it or whatever, but I think that would be great. I think it's fine to ask for, since the mural group has claimed that they've met with community groups and stuff, I think it's fine if we don't feel like we have minutes of that or some sort of documentation of that. I think it's fine for us to ask that. I'm not in favor of us asking them to go do more community advertising of the thing, because frankly it's been in the paper, it's been widely publicized in lots of meetings, and I think that's a burden beyond what this group, this is one commissioner's opinion, but I think it's beyond our reach to ask them to go get more evidence of approval for it.
Okay.
I'm done talking now.
Anybody else?
I agree with Jerry, and I think aside from filling in a few of the blanks in the application with information they already have available, I think they've followed the process pretty well, and I think they deserve a response from us.
Anybody else?
So do we want to make a motion?
Make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this pending, help me with the list of things, but that we get the budget, that we get
documentation
from the community groups.
I think, is there
the insurance, which I think will be part of the budget.
No, they've got the insurance. They've got that through. Thank you.
Well, and an insurance certificate would be part of the contract.
Yeah. Oh, part of the contract.
That would be an attachment to the contract, I think.
And do we want to put a time schedule on this?
I suspect we'll get that from them pretty quickly.
Okay. And can we add, Natalie, was there anything else that, I don't know if you'll be able to find this, that we asked for besides budget and
Documentation.
I honestly don't remember. The architect. Oh, the piece from the architect.
Oh, the architect.
Okay.
And they may come back to us. They may come back to us and say the architects weren't willing to take a position on it or whatever. But I do think it would be an interesting point.
So Natalie, did you get that?
That's what I'm checking. Sorry.
Motion.
Receiving of the budget, the documentation from the community groups, and the architect's response.
A response from the architect.
Is there anything else we're forgetting, Porter?
I think that covers it.
All right.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so I will write this up with you, Porter, and we'll get it sent to the City Commission along with all the attached stuff. All right?
Very good.
Thank you, everybody, for being pretty civil most of the way through.
Thank you.
A break.
We still have
A break
let's take
would be
a
a good
5-minute
idea.
break. We still have some other stuff we have to do.